the game, so I would get some feedback. Fair enough, but for some reason I wasn't actually able to make that happen. Let me just make sure that... bastard. You know what, I just realized I'm supposed to put up the Patreon poll so people can vote on what video I'm going to be responding to next, but whatever. Okay, I have been jonesing for a Corona... that's not gonna adjust. Corona Zero, a zero alcohol Corona beer. They're really refreshing. I love them, and they're only 56 calories, I think, and so good. Yeah, I got a recipe for carnitas from someone, and they said, oh, you should include a bit. Oh, that was something finishing rendering. I will just ignore that. Anyway, yes. So, and I was like, well, I don't want to use like a real beer because whatever. Even though the alcohol will probably burn off, who cares? I don't want to use a real beer. I was like, well, mostly because I was like, I'll have to buy like a whole load of beer, and I won't, like, what will I do with the rest? So, non-alcoholic beer. Bought some of this, and I've just been drinking it on very special occasions. And today's a special occasion. Why? Because it's Saturday. So good. It's crisp. It's cold. Anyway, why the fuck is this debunking transphobia video not working?
Gonads.
Well, whatever. We're going to start reacting.
And chromosomes and hormones don't fit into neat categories, into two neat boxes. It is us, the people, who have made the distinctions of what ultimately defines a person. Sex.
Okay, let's make sure this actually works on my phone. Anyway, why the fuck is this debunking transphobia video not working?
Gonads.
Well, whatever. We're going to start reacting.
And chromosomes and hormones.
Alright, yep, it's working. Alright. So the only thing I haven't been able to do is get it so you can actually hear the sound of the game, but I think most people don't. That doesn't bother most people. One person brought it up, and to that person I'll say eventually I'll fix this, whatever. Let's go.
There's so much, but at the same time, it doesn't tell you or me anything at all. When examining the term sex under a microscope, the dividing walls vanish. We're left with categories that seem made up because it makes the world easier to understand. Huh. Maybe like they're constructed in some way. I have to pause for a moment, guys, because an important ruling just came up. The UK Supreme Court has now ruled on a definition of what is a woman. Finally, Matt Walsh has an answer, thank the Lord! This ruling was only done to exclude trans women from women's spaces. And this was done by...
No, it wasn't only done to exclude trans women from women's spaces. In fact, it doesn't really have anything to do with so-called trans women in so-called women's so-called spaces. It's about, basically, and I'm going to get this one right, it's about when there is equality legislation that relates to women's rights, how is the word woman being defined in that context? So, yeah, basically, if there's a piece of equality legislation that says, oh, it's a problem, it's, for example, misogynistic if someone attacks a woman for being, I was going to say, it's misogynistic if someone attacks a woman for being a woman. And the point there is that, well, what does it mean to attack someone because they're a woman? And the legislation basically says, well, that means that if she's biologically female. That is what the legislation says. It doesn't really mean that... The thing is, there isn't really any legislation relating to who's allowed to use a man or a woman's toilet. And therefore, there isn't any equality legislation relating to that. And this was just a ruling on what woman means as it relates to equality legislation. So not only is the purpose... So first of all, just clarify, the purpose of it is actually incredibly important because we can't meaningfully achieve women's rights or any group's rights unless we understand what that group is. If we want to have equality legislation for men and women, we have to have some idea of what a woman is. So that was the main purpose. And aside from the fact that's the main purpose, there's then the fact that it isn't even achieving the thing that he's saying is the main purpose.
3 organizations: the Lesbian Project, LGBT Alliance, and Sex Matters. And to bring it back around, Helen Joyce is a director of advocacy for Sex Matters. She has then had a direct influence on what defines a woman. A woman, in the eyes of the UK Supreme Court, is defined by her biology. What is biology, you ask? Well, I also asked that question because every single newspaper article I read doesn't mention it. They just say, no, it's defined by biology now. After reading through the 80 or so pages, I can conclude that, is England dumb? Is England kind of stupid? The UK Supreme Court just ruled that a woman is defined by her biology. And that is not chromosomes, it's not gametes, it's not hormones, it's not phenotypical sex characteristics, it's not secondary or primary sex characteristics. No. A woman is defined by her ability to give birth. Her ability to bear children. A woman, in the eyes of the UK Supreme Court, is a birthing machine. And you can decide.
Okay, what's the problem with that? Because again, there is a difference between an ought and an is. Human beings, in the eyes of biology, indeed all organisms, are just atoms that exist to reproduce themselves, if you like. Or, I don't know, like, not really atoms, because all atoms are. But, you get what I'm saying, like, molecules. The point of a human being, or any organism, is just to recreate itself. That's what we're designed for by a necessary extension of how natural selection works. So that's not a problem, because actually, and of course the issue here, and this is the problem, right? The most important situation where it matters that we understand that women are birthing machines is when we're talking about what rights women should have. Because the problem is that if you define women by certain lovely things, like, oh, a woman is strong, a woman is powerful, a woman can be anyone she wants to be. The problem is that by defining the group by the nice thing you're saying about them, you're actually not helping a particular group. If, like, we talk about, like, black people being slaves in the antebellum South, if you say, I'm going to say that a black person is free, well, the problem with that is, by definition, you can't actually help black people there, because black people aren't free. So actually, if you say that part of what defines, and again, doesn't really, well, I mean, for example, slavery, right? If we want to end slavery, we have to decide what is a slave, and we have to decide, by definition, a slave is someone who is enslaved. I'm not saying that being, like, obviously giving birth is not a slavery thing. Like, at the end of the day, giving birth is actually something that many women happily do, and if no woman gave birth, we would have some issues, existential issues for society. But the point is that actually, even if we are defining women by something that could be considered offensive, that isn't a bad thing, especially if the goal is to try and improve women's situation. And certainly, yeah, we shouldn't be defining women by some kind of aspirational namby-pamby definition, because then you're not actually helping any specific group, because, like I say, you now haven't defined what the group actually is.
Decide for yourself if that's a good thing.
Oh, Jasper, but have you given a slight piece of a thought to sex differences in sports?
Okay, whatever. We're moving on to sports thing. I do just also want to say, like, it probably is true that the government definition of biological sex is lacking, because, well, the government, right? The government, man. Let me tell you something about the government, man. So yeah, that's a possibility. But what I actually think, honestly, is that the government does just need to come up with a definition, just say this is the definition. Because by doing that, it means that we can, like, if it's a bad definition, at least we now know what the problem is, which I think is better than not having any definition. So actually, it might be the case the government definition isn't that great, but that's not such a bad thing. Having a bad definition is a good starting point compared to refusing to try and have a definition at all. Anyway, now we're going to look at sports. I feel like, honestly, the reality of the situation is that I definitely could be saying more stuff. We had the thing last time. If you were here last time, I was kind of like anxious, so that didn't work very well. You know what? I'm actually going to let everyone know that I'm doing this because, why not? I think that'll be fun. Unless, wait, I'm going to see. Did I actually post about this last time? If I posted about this last time, I'm not going to post about it now. I did post about it last time. You know what? I'm not posting about it now because I feel like the fact that not even that many people showed up last time tells me, all right, fine, whatever. I don't care. Stupid audience. No, they're fine. I just wish my audience was slightly more interested in being like, oh, this guy's doing something else. I wish my audience liked me instead of just hating trans people. That's it. That's all I'm saying. It's just, it is disappointing to know that my entire presence on YouTube is built on a foundation of hatred of oppressed minority group trans people and not built on people actually liking me. And when I say, hey guys, no, of course that's not actually, because of course in this case I am. Like, even when I'm like, oh, I'm going to be playing a game and responding to a video defending trans people. They're like, oh, you're going to be doing something else as well as hating trans people? No. Pure trans hate. That's all I care about from you. Go and do the trans hate, you little content piggy. You little content slave. You little whatever I am. Anyway.
I don't give a shit about sports. I don't care. I don't care.
That is such a dickhead thing to say, because the thing is, I don't care if you don't care about sports. This is kind of funny, right? Because I'm playing FIFA. But it doesn't matter if you don't care about sports. What matters is again, it's just like this whole thing. It's really funny to me that in the case of trans activism, they've managed to turn I don't care about this social issue into like something woke. And I get that they can sometimes do it of other things, probably. But yeah, it's just especially strange to me that they can do it on this, where, it is affecting women. But yeah, in general, like saying like, oh, I don't care about this issue, it's not cool. Because actually, there are women who do enjoy playing sports and they want to be able to play it fairly and not be seriously injured. I mean, yeah, I just have no patience for this I don't care thing.
About sports. I don't care. These are real.
I don't want to listen to him while I'm drinking my beer, because it corrupts such a pure experience. It's really funny. Like, I understand that for a lot of people, alcohol is an important part of beer, and it might even seem a bit posery to drink like non-alcoholic beer. I just love, like, I'm so serious about the beer. It's the beer. I love the beer, not the alcohol. The alcohol I can take or leave. I love the beer, but I do love beer. I just think it tastes nice. It's got a nice taste. It's like, it's got a very savory flavor. It's just, it's just nice. It's got bubbles. It's cool. I would happily, if that was like one sponsorship I would take, it would be like a non-alcoholic beer sponsor. I like the idea of being sponsored by something that actually aligns with my values, and also being sponsored by something that I could reasonably imagine people might actually buy just because they want to buy it. Like all these other things, like there's just so many other things you do not need. You do not need Dollar Shave Club. You don't need what? I don't even know what you don't need a VPN. I'm sorry, you don't. Stop being a gooner. I don't care that the government's made it illegal to goon. Just stop doing that. Anyway, we will make some progress.
Human beings we are talking about. I don't care about sports.
It's actually a bit loud. Oh, and sorry. I'm already still getting distracted. Saying like, oh, this is real human beings we're talking about. Yeah, women are human. Okay, that was. Oh, I know why. It's because I clicked X instead of shoot. Yeah, women are human beings. Fun fact, big if true, and they're being screwed over with all of this transport stuff. So yeah, it's just dumb to be. I don't know. That's just like so weird to be like, this is real human beings we're talking about, It's like, so because you don't care about this specific thing, therefore you think that it doesn't affect trans, or like you think that it doesn't matter because only trans people matter because they're human. It just doesn't really make any sense, that.
With all that out of the way, we can finally get to debunking time to think. So, just to reiterate, there are only 5 things I wanted to look at. Children are rapidly getting gender dysphoria. These vulnerable children are autistic. This is too complex to figure out. They go on to extreme medical intervention, puberty blockers, and 5, almost all of them will detransition. Chapter 5, ROGD. Whereas most of the literature on gender non-conforming children was about boys who had a lifelong sense of gender incongruence, Yitz's waiting room was overpopulated with teenage girls whose distress around their gender had only started in adolescence. GIDS, by the way, stands for Gender Identity Development Service. And this phenomenon of a rapid increase in the amount of girls referred to the Tavistock is mentioned quite a lot by Barnes. Let's see, it's mentioned on page 9, 13, 19, 37, 96, 125, 100.
It's very significant that there is such a rapid increase in girls. It suggests, apart from anything else, it's interesting even if you don't see a moral issue with it. It's interesting that trans identity has gone from largely something that you see with like a very small subset of dudes to suddenly having like a whole load of girls who are like, oh, I have this desire too. And then like it also makes the change in population more significant because when you realize it's a totally different group, that's a big difference. That was an unfortunate miss.
126, 132, 134, 145, 147, 168, 172, 174, 176, 181, 224, 233, 248, 249, 292, 296, 306, 307, 336, 339, 351, 413, 424, 428, 434, and 453. And you would think that something which is given so much attention would also be given a name, but Barnes, throughout the whole book, never ever gives us precise definition of this phenomenon, even though it's right. It's right.
Wait, what do you mean the precise? Okay, like I know that something's about to be said that supposedly is going to make it clear what's being spoken about here, but what do you mean the precise definition of this phenomenon of girls becoming trans? Like, do you mean like trans men, or I don't really know like what the word is that's supposed to be missing there, so let's just hear what he's saying.
Tip of my tongue, rapid
rapid onset genders for it. Okay,
let me introduce you to Lisa Littman, who is a certified obstetrician and gynecologist. Littman used to co-author papers on contraceptives, so nothing really to do with gender dysphoria. But this person, who had no prior experience working with trans people, has now become a household name in trans academia.
Yeah, so this Lisa Littman person, my memory is that like there's this situation where there was a study and the study did have issues, and that was ridiculous. I'm willing to believe, again, I don't really care about studies. It seems like every study has issues. Someone brings up a study, someone else says, oh, no, the study's actually complete nonsense. Like, okay, fine, whatever. But, basically, again, I've kind of already said, I don't really care whether people are detransitioning, whether it's happening rapidly. I care about whether the idea is correct. So, but yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you talk about like rapid onset gender dysphoria, it's kind of a bit weird to be like, oh, this person never ever uses the term for it. It's kind of like, I feel like in a way, like once you use a term for something, that's kind of an issue. I mean, I know that like even Philosophy Tube has said this about gender dysphoria, that the decision to take these feelings and then be like, oh, this is a thing, this is gender dysphoria, is perhaps problematic. And I would actually agree. I would say that we should be not so quick to just immediately apply labels to things, and that's actually good. So I feel like it's kind of disingenuous to be like, oh, isn't it terrible that this person who wrote this other paper, where they mentioned an idea similar to or they basically mentioned the fact that a lot of people are becoming trans, isn't it like weird that they didn't use the term rapid onset gender dysphoria? It's like, well, maybe because they don't want it to be understood as this medical phenomenon in itself and just want it to be recognized as a reality of the situation. I think that's fair enough. In fact, I think that's actually commendable. That's just me.
You see, in 2016, she managed miraculously to establish a link between gender dysphoria and phone equals bad. Okay.
So
That's
I'm
oversimplifying
assuming,
a bit.
Okay, so I'm assuming that this is a case of that people being online a lot and detached from like normal society can lead to all sorts of nonsense ideas. I mean, it's like that 4chan post about like before the internet. I want to fuck a toaster. Okay, that's weird. Shut up, you like freak. And then you grow up and you become normal. Now with the internet, I want to fuck a toaster. Discover an entire community of people who also want to fuck toasters, and then ruin your life because now you found acceptance. Yeah.
Let's see how she describes it.
So the ROGD hypothesis proposes that social influences, maladaptive coping mechanisms, and other psychosocial factors can contribute to the development of gender dysphoria and transgender identification.
It's also just like, it's a bit weird to be like, oh, a phone is bad, blah, blah, blah. Because like the fact that like people are on screens too much, that people are on social media, like all of the problems with modern technology is not like even a controversial thing to point out now. And the fact that it might have an impact on mental health would not be controversial to point out. And the fact that mental health might be relevant to whether someone I mean, I would say that being trans is literally like having a negative feeling about your biological sex. So that seems like a mental health issue right there. It all seems like it would be very relevant, but I don't know. That's just me. That's just me being sensible.
In populations of teens and young adults with late onset gender dysphoria.
She calls this rapid onset of gender dysphoria, or ROGD. Even though Hannah Barnes constantly reinforces the idea of rapid onset gender dysphoria, she never, not even once, mentions the theory by name. And I just can't get myself to believe that isn't a deliberate choice.
Well, again, it might be a deliberate choice, again, because actually there's lots of times where you might talk about a concept, but you don't want to mention the idea, because the second you mention an idea, you're actually like bringing together all of people's kind of baggage that they might have with that concept. Or again, it just is a problem when you like make a series of observations and then you say this is a thing. I mean, I think I already mentioned like evolution, natural selection. I feel like a lot of the time, if you just explain what evolution is and you just say, people reproduce, whoever's better at reproducing is going to obviously necessarily pass on their genes, and therefore, basically whatever, I don't need to explain the process of natural selection. A lot of people will agree with that, but then when it's called evolution, they're like, oh no, I don't believe in evolution. So in that situation, if someone explains the theory of evolution by natural selection and they never use that phrase, then is that a deliberate decision? Yes, but it's actually a deliberate decision that like there's a reason for doing. So yeah, I don't really see the problem with someone not mentioning the theory by name.
Not as if Barnes doesn't know about Lisa Littman. She references one of Littman's newer studies on detransitioners later in the book. Back in 2016, Lisa Littman's original study, Parent Reports of Adolescents and Young Adults Perceived to Show Signs of Rapid Onset Gender Dysphoria, strives to put an answer to the increase in the amount of referrals to gender clinics. Like that chart from the Tavistock I showed at the very beginning of the video, for example. Going from 4 cases in 1989 to more than 5,000 in 2021 is a 120,000% increase. It's
that's pretty huge.
Unheard of. And this can't be right. There shouldn't be so many trans kids, right? Essentially, Littman started with a presumption of no, there shouldn't be so many trans kids. There can't be.
That's not the assumption. I would say that actually showing that something has increased by 120%, you should start the assumption. Oh, that's weird. That's like kind of crazy. But no, I don't see any evidence that just because someone like started off like, oh, that's pretty insane, and felt this was something worth exploring and looking at the possibility there could be something, let's say, untoward going on that's led to this massive change. I don't think any of that requires that you start with the assumption that this shouldn't be the case. You're just saying, oh, I mean, yeah, again, like in general, we have this idea of that society is pretty consistent, and if something suddenly changed, it doesn't seem to be, oh, I definitely overshot that. No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, then there's a reason why you'd expect that.
What we're seeing can't be a real thing, and since it can't be a real thing, something must have triggered it in the youth. It must have a place of origin. It must be a sort of contagion. As I talked about before, a trans person usually needs to go through the medical system to get medical treatment. And as I said, that has in almost all circumstances throughout recent history been dependent on getting properly diagnosed with gender dysphoria. All diagnoses of gender dysphoria since the 80s have been one of these two categories: gender dysphoria in adulthood and gender dysphoria in childhood. The explicit goal of Lisa
Those are some pretty self-explanatory categories, I think it's fair to say.
Littman's study was to create a new...
Again, this is like, it's kind of funny, like that's another example of where like creating like a category kind of just feels dumb. Like sometimes that's the thing, not everything needs a category. It's like there's children who supposedly have gender dysphoria, there's adults who supposedly have gender dysphoria. Like to say like, oh, those are two categories, I don't know, it just seems a bit weird. It's like, why aren't there three categories? Why don't you include like the teenagers? Why don't you include the elderly? Like, what's the point in those being multiple different categories? I don't know. Let me say to people, it feels like one of the biggest arguments I see in pro-trans videos is just saying the argument in a sarcastic voice. Oh my goodness me, yeah, Jew. Sorry. I don't know how I'm supposed to say your name, but I always like shorten people's names, and I just see, all I see is the words Jew on the screen. So, good point, Jew. You really nailed it, Jew. Yeah, like that's the thing, and that's like something they do all the time. There's a lot of it's kind of like there's a lot of making it so the reader or listener has to do the argument themselves, because that means they might not realize how dumb the argument is. I remember, like, the first example I really remember of noticing this was with like Muslims, where they would like, they didn't really have like a good argument against the Bible. So the only thing they could be is like, it just seems strange to me. This seems suspicious. But did you know that Paul had a falling out with one of the early apostles? Isn't that strange? Isn't that suspicious? Like, yeah, because, you know, but then like Jesus felt whatever. But like, that's an example where like if they actually said Paul cannot possibly be true and a reliable person, and therefore Christianity must be false because Paul had an argument with one of the apostles, you'd be like, that's like obviously just a terrible argument to be making. But by being like, oh, isn't it just suspicious? They're kind of, it's a better way of like preaching to the choir, because then the choir will be like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of suspicious. You know, like basically they're already inclined to take it suspiciously.
Third category, that of rapid onset of gender dysphoria.
Rapid onset gender dysphoria seems to be a new subtype.
This would allow researchers to have a tangible way to differentiate between real dysphoria and fake social media / attention.
Well, again, yeah, we don't really do the whole like true trans thing here. We don't do that. Okay, why would the other defender not have just ran onto it? Whatever.
/ coping dysphoria. Let's see how this totally random guy, Michael, what's his name? Bailey, frames it.
A young adult woman who in therapy came to believe that her father molested her terribly over years, broke off contact with the family. Which is worse, that or having your daughter say she wants testosterone because she's trans? We shouldn't have to choose. Both this epidemic and the ROG epidemic represents the worst, most irresponsible, unforgivably irresponsible conduct of the mental health profession.
Okay, that was taken a little out of context. Bailey is comparing rapid onset gender dysphoria and the rise in referrals with false memory syndrome, a moral panic from the 90s where some psychotherapists made their clients believe that they...
Hey, Hannah. Oh, thank you so much. She bought me a chamomile tea.
had been victims of childhood sexual
That's
assault.
okay, you don't have to close the door.
Anyways, that's not what's important. What is important is the framing, that it isn't.
I like how, I don't know, like, again, kind of poisoning the world to be like, okay, I took that out of context. I don't know, it just seems a bit weird to be like, oh, I'm going to make this person seem like they're absolutely unhinged. But, oh no, I took it out of context, and don't worry, everyone, I'm going to let you know I took it out of context, so it's fine.
Real. That these people who are referred to gender clinics are, in fact, not transgender at all, but cisgender children who have been duped into believing they are trans.
Yeah.
I believe ROG.
You know what this all reminds me of? Again, I'm going to make another religion analogy. It reminds me of how, like, you, like, see, like, Catholics who will, like, say, oh, I'm going to argue against Protestants. And then you look at their arguments, and all their arguments are essentially just that, like, some Protestants aren't really Protestants. You know, they'll be like, oh, you say that you believe in faith alone, but actually you do think you need other stuff added onto it. And it's like, yeah, those specific, oh my goodness, what a disaster. Thank God it's a friendly. Scoring, like, that must have been the 92nd minute. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, like, that, and it's kind of a similar vibe here, right, of a lot of these people, the only argument they can really make against the gender critical position is like a half gender critical position, where like they'll just say, oh, you believe that there's real gender dysphoria and there's fake gender dysphoria, but this distinction you're drawing isn't actually meaningful, blah, 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 blah. The thing is, I don't make that distinction. So that's not like an argument against me. It's not an argument against any of you guys, I would imagine. Hey, William, thank you for being here. I feel like this game can look less bland if you had like nighttime, midday lighting, and shadows cast onto the field. I think you can change the time of day. I'll do that just for you.
To be the single most influential recent theory on transgender people. Why? Well, I've read tens of thousands of pages on trans research, and inevitably you end up noticing some patterns. Theories, treatments, authors, and activists. But one particular pattern stood out. There was a very noticeable shift in 2017, like with Helen Joyce, for example, or even Hannah Barnes.
Somewhere along the way, somebody must have emailed you and said, "Have you heard about what's going on in Jids at the Tavistock?"
No, it wasn't that.
Yeah,
I think
so
I first came across it at all in 2017, and there was really not very much around at all.
And this is right around when Littman's paper on rapid onset gender dysphoria was published. I don't think it's the only factor, but I think it was part of the perfect storm. In 2016, the most prominent researcher on trans people was fired.
There was a BBC television documentary about what was going on in Canada, and Ken Zucker, who I know you've had on the show, about what was going on with his clinic and or what had happened.
The theory of ROGD ushered in a new era of narratives. No longer was it a fucked up kid here and there, but a threat to children in general.
Okay, so this graph here, you can see a remarkable upturn. That is an epidemic.
But the theory of rapid onset gender dysphoria was rotten to its core before it was even published.
Okay.
And I think Hannah Barnes knows this. That's why she doesn't mention the theory in her book at all. So let's take a look at Lisa Littman's parent reports of adolescents and young adults perceived to show signs of rapid onset gender dysphoria.
Who is that guy I just bought? It was... I don't remember who it was. Wait. Let me find out who that guy was I just bought, because I'm distressed. Nez Football. Yeah. There's like... Oh, wait. What am I doing? Okay, let's go on to the... Okay, I feel like, where's my... Inbox, here we go. So, who have I actually purchased? I've purchased Kabongo Tishimanga. Chimanga. Oh, go back. I don't think I've actually purchased him yet. I think I've got to wait for him to appear. I don't think I have a guy. Oh, wait. You're looking for Tishimanga. It's not here. Nope. No, he's not here. Okay, we'll get him later. Right. Anyway. That's a good point. I think the issue with these videos is that this doesn't convince me of a change in physical reality at all. Like, what is he even rambling about? Yeah, he's kind of like going all over the place. Interestingly, he very much reminds me of Mia Mulder. You know, Mia Mulder's like the, I think, Swedish person who kind of like has a very similar cadence, very similar presentation of things, very similar tense. The thing that I remember from Mia Mulder is like a repetition of the word breeding. They think that women are all about breeding. And that's supposed to be, again, it's like this like thing of, oh, I'm going to emphasize this specific thing to make it sound like really creepy or whatever. But it's just like, it's not really, or rather, that's not a thing that, like, you're basically adding in that word and then getting mad about something you've made up.
There are at least 4 problems with the study: priming, proxy, bias, and pathology. Before 2016, very few people talked about the rise in trans people, and practically no one thought that it had something to do with a social contagion. Littman's study even mentions as much. So the one thing you absolutely, for any reason, would not want to do was to plant the idea of cause and effect. You were being asked to take part
in a research study if you have a child who, when they were between the ages of 10 and 21, developed a sudden or rapid onset of gender dysphoria. This may have occurred in the context of either increased social media / internet use and / or belonging to a friend group in which one or multiple friends have developed gender dysphoria and come.
By the way, hello Sonar Poop. It's like, it is nice having multiple people there, I do actually. It only takes like a handful of people in a chat to make it feel like you're really popular.
Out as transgender during a similar time frame.
Look, I dropped out after 3 semesters in business. And even I know that this is the biggest do not do, please. It's the 101 of biased research. This was planting the idea that ROGD is real. Let me reframe it to a different example. You are being asked to take part in a research study if you have a child who, when they were between the ages of 1 and 4, developed autism. This may have occurred following the administration of an MMR vaccine. When you add the last part, you implicitly infer that there is a relation between vaccines and...
I believe you mean imply. The other person who's reading it would infer, but you imply. No, yeah, like, absolutely. Like, I'm sure that there are issues with studies. Again, it seems like there's issues with every single study, but maybe there are specific issues with this study. Whatever. This is kind of like a double level of who cares. Because, one, you don't need a study to prove rapid onset gender dysphoria. You can just look at the massive increase in people suddenly identifying as trans out of nowhere. And two, even if it was the case that rapid onset gender dysphoria didn't exist, even if we went back to how it was before 2010, back when it was overwhelmingly just a bunch of old dudes who were identifying as trans, all of the criticisms people are making would still be largely unchanged. There would just be one social or societal aspect in which it's different. By the way, I think I've realized something. Sorry. I can change the time of day, but I think because there are floodlights, it doesn't actually make it look any difference. Did you announce on your channels that you're streaming? No. I actually, if you go back, you'll see I considered doing it. And then I realized I did that last time. It didn't lead to that many people showing up. So I was like, well, screw them. You know, if they're not going to show up when I announce it, I'm not going to announce it. They can all go to hell for all I care.
That's going out of your way to create the connection. So when Littman asks,
how many of your children have experienced a sudden or rapid onset of gender dysphoria, which began after puberty?
She has primed the parents to think that gender dysphoria can be rapid and is caused by social media or friend groups. So no, she never asked the children. Instead, she asked the parents, which, well, was a bad idea. Not only does she rely on the parents to diagnose their kids with gender dysphoria, and a hitherto non-existing form of rapid onset gender dysphoria at that, she also relies on the parents to decide when this gender dysphoria manifested in their child. And look, parents, I'm sure you want the best for your child, but you have no idea what's going on in their little heads. You aren't a mind reader. And being trans usually involves coming out to the people around you. A person might feel something for years before they can admit their feelings to themselves, and then it's gonna take more time for them to say it to anyone. Because what if they're wrong about what they're feeling? Senior Jones from Gender Analysis explains 4 separate studies of around 1,200 trans children and adolescents. In all 4 studies, the child felt different, but it took them 3 years to see themselves as trans. When they felt trans, it still took a couple of years before coming out, and yet another couple of years to live in their identity and gender. It's not an overnight thing. If they weren't trans, they likely wouldn't go through the years and years of waiting to get treatment. So it's not that the children aren't trans, they're just not telling their parents right away. And then it's a simple boolean. They aren't trans in the eyes of the parents until they have told them. Of course it seems rapid then. Some children actually have very good reasons not to trust their parents. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, so the whole argument here is, well, it's not necessarily rapid, it's just that they're telling... The problem is that trans identity is all about self-identity. So, or rather, let me put the emphasis in the right place, it's all about self-identity. Meaning that, in a real sense, you aren't trans until you identify as trans. Like, what he's basically saying here is, oh, you know, there might have been lots of people who felt really unhappy about their body and blah, 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 and they had all of these feelings, but they just didn't tell people they were trans right away. But the problem is, if you don't tell someone you're trans, then you aren't trans. You know, obviously the thing is nowadays we say, well, they eventually tell someone, therefore they were trans all along. But is it not actually quite reasonable to imagine there might have been people who always felt like this, but they just never identified as trans, in which case we would say, well, they weren't actually trans. Like, that's the problem. Gender critical people would say that somebody, lots of people have had all sorts of feelings. Like, the feelings that make someone think they are trans, they do exist. And they have existed at many different points in society, but it's just, you know, now we have this label of trans for it. So actually, because for us it's all about the label, when someone says they are trans is the most important thing, and that is rapid. So yeah, I just want to point that out. Hello, Atreya. Good to have you here. Another person. Love to see that. And now I'm here. Yeah, awesome.
I hope that most parents want their kids to trust them. Look, some children are afraid of talking with their parents because they are afraid that the parents won't believe them.
What is this?
Many such cases, actually. Oh, and would you look at that? Out of all the parents from Littman's study, only 2.5% believed their child when they said they were trans. That seems extraordinarily low. Huh? This might have something to do with the people who answered the questionnaire. You see, Lisa Littman decided to recruit from 3 websites and 1 private Facebook group. Particularly, the websites are interesting. Fourth Wave Now, Transgender Trend, and Youth Transcritical Professionals. Really rolls off the tongue. Well, those 3 websites are all deeply critical of trans people. Fourth Wave Now supports...
I will say, like, people kind of attack this. I do kind of think to myself, well, you know what? It's not necessarily a bad thing to focus on, like, actually doing a study where you are just showing, all right, there are some people who believe this is the case, even if you're showing, like, only a specific group thinks that's the case. Like, that's not a necessarily intrinsically bad thing to study. Yes, if you say, like, oh, we did a study on trans people broadly, and we found that, like, a lot of them are rapidly onset, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you try and pass it off like that, that's obviously a problem. But if you're just saying, oh, we wanted to investigate whether this is a thing at all, so we went to the place where we were most likely to find out whether this is the thing, that's really not that shocking. It's kind of like if someone said, like, oh, this person wanted to find, like, dinosaur bones, so they went to a place where there had been lots of dinosaur bones, and clearly they were trying to prove that there are loads, like, that every square foot of Earth has huge amounts of dinosaur bones under it. But actually, they went to the place. No. Like, if you're trying to discover something, and that's all you're trying to do, yeah, maybe you will go to the place you're most likely to discover that thing, and that's not intrinsically objectionable. Watch this, going in. No, that's... Nope.
Version therapy for trans kids.
We oppose any form of therapy that seeks to change your child's sexual orientation. However, we are deeply concerned about the impact of recent so-called conversion therapy legislation forbidding careful, nuanced treatment of children and young people with gender dysphoria.
I've said this before. I would oppose a ban on conversion therapy for the trans thing. I'm also opposed to a ban on conversion therapy for sexuality. Because you know what? If someone wants to get any kind of therapy, they should be allowed to. It's not my business to tell someone they can't do something. What annoys me about all of this conversion therapy ban stuff is that they always say, oh, this person's been kidnapped and they're being tortured. Here's the problem. Kidnapping someone and torturing them, both of those things are already illegal. Everything that, like, the issue is once you remove all of the stuff that's already illegal from conversion therapy, you just have someone talking to someone about why they feel the way they do sexually with the expectation that they might stop feeling that way. And I don't think that's intrinsically a problem.
Transgender trend and its founder Stephanie Davis.
I should say, even if you do, for whatever reason, want to say, no, any gay person who wants to walk into a psychiatrist and say, hey, I want to have a therapeutic conversation with you, and I want the goal of that to be that I stop being gay, they should be arrested for that. Whatever. If that's like your opinion, whatever. But like even then, of course, the trans thing is totally different. And I've kind of pointed this out before, like one of the issues is that people can know they're gay, people can't know they're trans. Because again, like knowing you're gay is very easy. Do you want to bang dudes and you're a dude? You're gay. Then I got news for you. That makes you gay. Have you seen that video? It's like, I'm not gay. I have I love women and have sex with men. So we're going to open the advent calendar. It is the 6th of December. I'm actually looking for the 6th myself. Where is it? Here. There's the 6th. I cannot tell a lie. Wait. Where's my... Oh, my finger is in the right place. Cool. That's a good point, yeah. I suppose it's like homeopathy being legal. Like, it doesn't work, but why stop them from trying? Yeah, that's basically it. Like, there was this guy, like, Lo Anthony. He used to be really gay. He had this really good really good video, where he went like, calling all the basic bitches. There is a new announcement. You're amazing. I don't know if you've seen that video. I saw it. Of course. Because I was cooled. But he then, like, later on came back and he seemed kind of crazy. And it was like, I've stopped being gay. Whatever. Fine. I don't care. I just feel like there's, like, so many other crazy things people are doing in the world. Like, if you're going to make everything that's kind of, like, a bit weird illegal, I just think you've got to... it's a tall order, right? Oh wait, there it is. It's a rocking horse. That's a little picture, and the chocolate is a. It's always just like they're all just like Christmas puddings. It's all just that. Chocolate's so good. Right, listen.
Apparently don't believe in trans kids as
We don't have any evidence that children really are trans. This is a very new phenomenon which is based on no credible scientific research.
Anyways, the last website, Youth Trans Critical Professionals, it's closed down. Too bad. I could have talked about how its founder, Lisa Marchiano, most likely invented the whole social contagion thing and maybe even helped Littman write the theory. Or how Lisa Marchiano shared stories comparing trans support groups to ISIS. Or this one that compares being trans to a fetish. Or this detransition story from someone named...
So, if this guy's like, see, like the thing is, comparing trans to ISIS, that's pretty intense. Comparing trans to a fetish... That's just like Gender Critical 101. So this guy's going to be very upset if he like actually looks into this in more detail.
Jamie Shoup, who conflates autism and gender and says transitioning is like the emperor's new clothes. Of course, Littman flings these accusations of, so-called transphobia to the side. If they hate trans people so much, why do 88% of them believe that trans people deserve the same rights as other people? They would march with you if you were discriminated against, please. But, let's be honest. Just because they accept that some people are trans, it doesn't mean that they would accept their own child being trans. Once again, I'll refer to Senia Jones and Heather McNamara.
Sorry, just for the record,
also need
accepting that some people are trans and wanting equal rights for trans, those aren't really the same thing. Again, it depends how you're defining, this is why I don't really talk about the whole, I believe in equal rights to trans people. It's well, what are trans people? That was almost a really bad foul. What are trans people? That's the problem. But obviously, if someone's just saying, well, I think that people who identify as trans should get equal rights, that is very different from saying, and I actually believe their claims about reality are true. Again, I think that Catholics should have equal rights to real Christians, but that doesn't mean that I think they're actually correct in their beliefs. Well, that's in. This is in. Surely this is in every day of the week. Watch this. No, okay, wait. This is no. Okay, wait. This is. Oh, look at this. We're in. Surely this is in. Sure. Okay. No. You're stupid. No. Okay. Never mind. We didn't even get a show off. Trouble with Arsenal is they always try and walk it in.
to look at what else the general population believes about trans people. And that's not such a rosy picture.
Which, look around. Or even better, just watch this video. The RGD
Is this going to be a red?
study is subject to selection bias, proxy bias, recall bias, and leading and loading question bias. Yes, it's that bad. Okay, I hear you say, but that one pilot study might be bad, but aren't there any other good studies on ROGD? No, there aren't. The largest and most recent study on ROGD recruited from parents of ROGDkids.com, which also, it's retracted. Rapid onset gender dysphoria has been rejected as a theory by the American Psychological Association, American Psychiatric Association, and 60 other medical associations. But there's something more.
I just don't really know, what do you mean by a theory? Saying that a load of people are identifying as trans who didn't identify as trans before, that's not a theory, that's just a fact. It's kind of just saying this theory's been rejected. I don't really know what you're saying there.
Fundamentally wrong with the ROGD narrative. And that has to do with the whole contagion thing. That being trans is a pathology or a harmful idea that can be contracted if you hang around the wrong sorts of people. Which it's not. Did you know that almost no people were left-handed 100 years ago? Even though
That's not true. About, I believe, 3% of people were left-handed in the early 1900s, and that grew to 12%, meaning it only grew by 4. That looks like a woman. No, sorry, that looks like a woman. It's just a guy with a ponytail, but that's a woman. But yeah, basically, this whole thing of the left-handed thing. I'll let him make the point, but this is, again, this is why I was I can respond to this while I'm playing FIFA at the same time. Because these are all arguments that I've addressed many times before. I've addressed the left-handed argument many times before, but I'll let him say it anyway. He's already made a mistake. It wasn't almost 0 people. It was 3%. No, I think it was actually 4%, and it rose to 12. So it didn't even increase by 4. It increased by 3 times. But yeah, obviously that's wrong.
people are born as left or right dominant or ambidextrous. The backward society of yesteryear punished people for writing with the wrong hand. Thereby the lefties lay dormant until we found out, hey, this is really dumb. Maybe we should be okay with being left-handed. And then, suddenly, like a miracle, more left-handed people emerged.
Chapter 6. Autism.
Yeah, okay, good. So he kind of went over it. So basically, yeah, the rate of increase was massive. Also, the rate of increase happened. It wasn't rapid. Like, that's the problem. He's saying, suddenly, loads of people became left-handed. It happened over, like, several decades that the number of left-handed people grew. And by the way, I think part of that is because a lot of left-handed people are more ambidextrous than a lot of right-handed people. Like, my mum is left-handed, but she can actually write quite well with her right hand. And that's it. Short... I thought it was in. Okay, never mind. It's fine. I feel like I could actually get fired by the what's it called? Who are the people I'm talking about? The board of directors. I felt like they could actually fire me because I haven't done that well in these matches, and I've just not been taking it very seriously. But I'm like, actually, they could say, we don't like how you've done the friendlies. You're going to be whatever. Anyway, yeah. So basically, it happened over decades. Probably because actually a lot of the left-handed people were capable of writing with their right hand, so they were just like, yep. But the other thing is that it's also like with left-handedness, that's something which you clearly are. If like the discomfort with trying to write with your right hand would have been just undeniable, whereas saying, oh, like the discomfort of your biological sex, that might have been deniable. Oh, sorry, that might have been undeniable. But saying like, and therefore I am the opposite sex, that's a totally separate thing. But again, either way, the increase is just much larger and over a much shorter period of time. And seeing as the rate of increase is the number one thing we're concerned with here, it just seems like, is that another foul? Okay, no, good. Anyway.
Many of them were same-sex attracted. The same was true for the boys attending GIDS, and many were autistic. Their lives were complicated too. This is the second claim I'll be looking at from Barnes' book, Time to Think. Just like ROGD, this is one of those themes that plays a large role. The words autism or autistic is mentioned more than 30 times throughout her book. The argument is essentially that autism somehow maybe causes people to be trans.
Most of the cases with the parents who have contacted me, their children have been diagnosed with high-functioning autism or Asperger's. A few of them, however, it's kind of going the opposite way. They're saying, my child was never diagnosed with that, but now that they are coming out with ROGD, now I want them to be assessed to see whether they may have actually had autism, and that's why they're doing it. It's weird how it's morphing in that way.
First, let me ask.
Did you know back then there were less people identifying as furries, but now there are more? Because that increases, that means they're actually animals, yeah.
So what? So what if some of these children are autistic? What would that entail exactly? And this might surprise you, but I think there's a very good chance that some of these children are autistic. In a little bit, I'm going to show you several papers in favor of the hypothesis of the interplay of autism and gender dysphoria. But let me show you another explanation first. The psychiatrist Jack Turpin has noticed how basically all studies on the intersection of gender dysphoria and autism don't actually measure autism diagnoses, but instead they measure autistic traits. So he proposes that what can look like autism, social impairment for example, is not caused by autism, but instead by stress and anxiety. He argues that these children are not autistic, but only show symptoms resembling autism, which researchers then have mistaken for correlation. Okay, the argument for the intersection of autism and gender dysphoria goes something like the following. More and more people are getting diagnosed with autism. Whereas we once thought it was 1 in 150 people who were autistic, modern estimates land at around 1 in 36. So around 3%. I will not elaborate on this. But what about trans people? In a meta-study of 641...
Okay everyone, this is our first match where we actually, based on how we do in this, depends on where, like that determines where we'll be in the league. So let's see how this goes.
1,000 participants, 24 of the gender variant respondents showed clinical levels of autistic traits compared to 5% of the cisgender group. So both of these groups are over the global estimate. And on the surface, this seems extraordinary. But yeah, you should take it with a grain of salt, okay? Depending on the recruitment methods and what autistic criteria researchers...
Where is my guy? I'm going back. Wait, can I go right back, or will that be a forfeit? Okay, no good. Okay, cool. Yeah, where is my dude? Let's find out, because I am confused. So, oh, I need to accept offer. Confirm. Okay, he's not ready yet. Okay, cool. I assume he's not ready. Let's see. Is he ready? I've already forgotten his name. Tsushima. Oh, he's ready. Oh, wait. He's not actually a very good player at all. Oh, but he's young. Okay, so I'll let him play in matches that don't matter. Cool. Okay, fine. Oh, wait. So I should put him... Oh, I should put him on the... Well, I'll put him on the squad. Substitute. Why are the menus in such low frame rate? Probably because my computer was built in the 1900s. 1500s.
Look for the levels of autism in trans and gender diverse people can vary greatly from 4.8% to 26%. But even if we say that 26% of all trans people are autistic, it still doesn't explain the remaining 74% who aren't autistic. No. Wait, it actually doesn't even explain the 26%, because we can't just equate autism with gender dysphoria.
So yeah, the thing about the autism thing, just so we're all clear, is like, the thing with the autism thing is that autistic people are very likely to form connections that aren't necessarily actually logical. And, well, they're very likely to be obsessed with categorizations. Like, that's what autistic people are into categorizing things. And that creates a situation where a lot of them might be more inclined towards thinking in terms of, like, trans ideology than other people would be. That's basically the situation with the trans autism connection.
Like, all autistic people are gender variant. So what actually is their argument?
Hey, Zombie Pup, how's it going?
How would autism make a person trans? Well...
Okay, well, I already addressed that, so cool.
Lying a little bit, because their argument isn't that autism makes you trans, only that it makes you gender dysphoric.
As noted earlier, one idea is that ASD sometimes leads to intense interests in cross-sex objects or activities, giving rise to a clinical presentation of GD.
This particular psychologist, what's his name? Suka? Implies that autistic people just get superficial obsessions, like, you know, how autists get special interests and collects Pokemon, or pictures of Randy from South Park or Weep stuff, and that's all really cool, but maybe their special interests are women, so they want to become women. Melissa Midgen is also an expert from Time to Think. She's a psychotherapist who's worked with different parts of the Tavistock Clinic, and coincidentally, she shared an office with Anna Hutchinson, the psychologist from the intro of this video, and from the start of the book. Anyways, Midgen and Hutchinson also have some theories on autism.
We have also witnessed a coincidence of autistic spectrum conditions and gendered/sex distress. The lens of gender can seem very apt for these girls retrospectively to understand the difficulties. They realize that nascent sexual desire is going to be problematic. They struggle in puberty because it is uncomfortable, weird and unpredictable, particularly heightened if they happen to be on the autistic spectrum.
Okay, alright.
Autistic people wouldn't have like strange reactions to stuff. They wouldn't struggle to process something socially. They wouldn't, come up with these crazy ideas. That's not what autistic people do. Oh, come on. How is that not a goal? The thing is, like, actually, all of this makes sense. In general, like, I would just say that it's interesting the trans thing has come along with a general kind of rise in a lot of, like, mental health issues with social media, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, then you add autism into the mix, and obviously there's, like, all these things kind of compounding on top of each other. I think we have more autism now, combined with that autism's just a thing people are talking about all the time now. Oh, goodness me. Don't. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, yeah, it's just, it's not unreasonable at all. And obviously, yeah, someone already said, like, this guy just, like, repeats stuff and then says it as if it's, like, really stupid. But, like, in that case, just to be like, well, yeah, I can't believe these people, they think, like, oh, people, like, get obsessed when they're autistic over all of this stuff. It's like, yeah, that's how autism works.
Underlying misogyny from a lot of these women's rights activists. Like, oh, these are just little girls, they don't know what's best for them.
Okay, yeah, so, alright, Peter, you're a nonce. Oh, you notice these women's rights activists, but they think that these women can't choose to have sex with me on Epstein Island. You are a pedophile. No, I don't want to be sued. But that is, like, this idea of, like, oh, you think that young children aren't able to make decisions. They aren't like emotionally mature enough to be making these huge decisions. Sounds like maybe you don't think women have rights. Sounds like you actually hate women. No, yeah, that's obviously stupid. So shut up. Oh my goodness, these guys are so much better than me.
It's something that permeates much of the discourse on trans boys, but I don't actually have time to go into it. Also, I don't really feel like it's my place to speak, but this one's really bad.
Okay. So it's worth
That's
noting,
really bad.
like, the person who wrote Irreversible Damage, she is a conservative. She's not like a feminist, so you wouldn't really expect her to be like super pro women's rights.
But the argument isn't about autistic trans people, because they don't actually believe that trans people exist. Listen to what Melissa Midgen has to say.
My take-home message is not any dispute about the existence of gender dysphoria as a set of symptoms and attendant experience, but rather the conflation of GD with transgender.
It's never about helping autistic people or trans people. No, it's just another way to not take these children seriously, to erase their needs and voices. It's also such an infantilizing way of thinking about autistic people. Oh, these little autists don't even know what they're doing. They don't have free will. Their feelings are hard and they are vulnerable, so we should make sure.
Again, it's definitely compounded when they're children. But also, I mean, I don't know, like, what even is autism nowadays? Because it seems like autistic can be anything from, like, just not even... Like, I was, like, watching a video from a guy who I like, who, he was, like, talking about how his brother is, like, so autistic that, like, he can't actually... Like, basically, he needs to go to, like, a special people's home. And, like, it literally, like, was a major impact on kind of his life and what opportunities... It was a major impact to him, his brother's life, what opportunities were available to him because of the fact that he had to be there for his... Oh, I thought it was going to be his autistic brothers. Like, that's... But then, like, meanwhile, there's, like, some people I know who are normally autistic and they literally just seem like just... Like, I don't even know what they're saying. Like, what are you on about? Like, you're just like every other person I know. So, like, with that said, it is a spectrum, and therefore some of these people, I mean, I would say someone who is not capable of living on their own, who is, and like they're autistic. So basically, when I'm talking about like the people who don't even talk, like they're not actually capable of having conversations, I'd say that those people kind of do need to be infantilized in terms of how we understand them. So yeah, I don't know. To me, like saying like, oh, you're being like dismissing autistic people, it's like, well, you know, there's an upper limit to how seriously you can take them when like you consider how far it can extend to. But again, the main thing is that they're children.
They don't make these decisions themselves. They can't. Listen,
also, just for the record, I should also say the other thing to bear in mind is that I think that the whole trans thing is stupid, and most of them aren't autistic, meaning just in general, most people are stupid. So, like, even if I'm saying, like, oh, autistic people are stupid for specific autistic reasons, I would still think they were autistic. Sorry, I would still think they were stupid, even if it was for non-autistic reasons. Like, they're still stupid no matter what. It's just that if they're autistic, well, probably the reason they have these stupid ideas is because of very specific like ideas they have about like categorizations and roles and like this desire to kind of simplify society into like this system that they can understand, all that kind of stuff.
Gender dysphoria and autism is one where suicidality is even more prevalent, and so is not being listened to. The presence of autism just gives these researchers like Melissa Midgen and Anna Hodgkinson an excuse to not believe what these children are telling them.
We need to take these children
I would still
seriously.
not believe them even if they were not autistic. It doesn't give me an excuse not to listen to them. It gives me an explanation for why they're saying stuff that's so not worth listening to.
Seriously, but not literally.
Autistic people are rarely listened to, sometimes because we are totally incompetent at...
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I like see, like, there's this like thing I see every now and then, which is like this autistic thing where it's like, oh, I can't believe that like neurotypicals just have this special secret code that they use to talk about stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's language. So I don't know. There's like an upper limit to how much you can be listened to if you don't get that, like how human language works, I would say.
Explaining what we feel, and that feels bad.
Some participants described concerns that their affirmed gender had been questioned due to their autism diagnosis. They viewed it as an obsession, but it's really not the same thing, and I don't know why they thought that.
I don't want to linger on this point too long. It's just that infantilizing autistic people is like really last decade. We aren't just exposed to Rain Man as the only representation in this day and age. Yes.
To be fair, Rain Man.
I do think that some of these.
I would say people didn't really infantilize Rain Man because he was just like. I mean, at least Rain Man was, like, really smart. But like, yeah, again, this whole like infantilizing thing. Part of the issue, again, is like you think about like how many autistic people are like obsessed with children's cartoons. Like, yeah, there's just an upper limit to how much you can complain about like, oh, I'm being infantilized. It's like, I'm being infantilized. Just let me watch my Steven's Universe in peace.
Children are autistic, but I don't think this is anything new. It's kind of cringe to go around and do postlude psychiatric evaluations on people. Especially when you have no business doing it, but allow me to be hypocritical for a second, okay? If you go back and read some of the case studies from the 70s and 80s and 90s, it's not as if none of them have an autistic aura. Some of them are definitely.
I would be willing to say that. Oh, hello.
Alright, there aren't any theories that fully explain why there's this
my pausing thing was screwing up. But yeah, I would be willing to say that, yeah, people in the past were also autistic when they were like, there was a strong correlation between those two things. I think that would make a lot of sense. So yeah, you're not like proving something insane here. Goodness me.
Occurrence of GD and ASD. None, really.
Oh,
but yes, a fraction of trans people might be autistic, but honestly, so what? Autism is never brought up in these debates to be more empathetic. It's only brought as a reason to not take people seriously. Maybe...
No, again, like, I think, like, at the end of the day, like, the whole concern here is people kind of being manipulated and believing a load of nonsense which they shouldn't be believing. That's in... I hate myself. Yeah. It is about being sympathetic. It's about, these people, they're not in a position to be understanding what they're doing, and you cannot like that people are saying that, but I think that sentiment... Oh, that was such a bad foul. Oh, no, it wasn't. Okay.
We should take them even more seriously. Since this is the only chapter where I can call myself an expert. I am autistic, after all. Have you noticed? Let me just vibe for a sec and throw my own theory into
just for record, again, like, I haven't noticed you're autistic. Like, there is nothing... Like, this is the problem with the whole autism thing. I'm just like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that, like, even slightly. Because, again, what does it even mean? Like, you just seem like every other cringe video essayist. And maybe all of cringe video essayists are autistic. I don't know. It seems like nowadays everyone's autistic. It's like, people just... I don't know. Like, it seems like basically nowadays it's just like autistic just means decided to take the test to see whether you're autistic. Because like, I don't know a single person who's taken that test and not found out they're autistic. So I'm just like, when people are kind of like, hey, Michael, have you ever considered taking one of these autism tests? I'm like, well, the minute I take one of those tests, I'm autistic, it seems. So, like, I don't really care.
It's okay. Autistic people can...
I don't want to take a test just to tell me that I've taken a test. That kind of seems like it's not really achieving very much.
A hard time understanding the underlying structures of society, where things might come naturally to a neurotypical person. An autistic person first need to understand that something is, and then why it is, and then use it. And gender is complicated, come on, that's what this whole video is about.
Yeah.
So the hierarchical normative social structure of gender is observed and replicated in society, but autists might experience it not as a given, but as a confrontation, and ask, why? Not why don't I
except
fit,
the funny thing is, though, they're not like smart enough to be like, oh, why? Let me challenge the system. They're like, no, why? Let me obsessively pick this specific place in the system, as if like I just need to find the right, like I need to engage with this system in the right way, because gender criticals are challenging the system. Autistic people who like identify as trans aren't.
Should I? And that's why there are two wolves inside autistic people. You either see through the bullshit and understand that gender is malleable and oftentimes nonsensical. And if that's the case, why should you hold yourself to a non-functioning, fabricated standard? Or you find a simple, quasi-coherent narrative from conservatives.
Chapter 7.
So sorry, just to clarify.
Complexity.
The trans narrative is simple. The trans narrative is just whatever you think you are, that's what you are. yeah, that's pretty simple. Oh, goodness me. This is a disaster. I'm going to lose everything. But yeah, that's a simple narrative.
What binds these people like Hannah Barnes, Anna Hutchinson, Melissa Midgen, Kirsty Entwistle, Helen Joyce, Peter Boghossian, Jennifer Bilek, and Lisa Littman together is not scientific rigor. I mean, obviously, it's transphobia. There, I said it. I said the magic word. Now the title finally makes sense. But it's not the kind where you hate trans people. I don't really think these people do. Okay, maybe Helen Joyce does, but the other ones, even the Nazi, I don't think they
That's so weird, because Helen Joyce is like the most milquetoast, liberal kind of like good faith. Like, it's so weird to be like, oh no, yeah, if there's one person out there that just hates trans people, just like frothing at the mouth, pure, unadulterated hatred of trans people, obviously that's Helen Joyce. No.
hate trans people. I just think that they think that trans people don't really exist.
I mean, I don't
Yes.
believe there's any actual instance of trans. I don't believe it's that kind of thing. It's a culture-bound syndrome.
You think the whole thing is no, not the not
No,
like it's,
I believe the whole thing is a culture-bound syndrome.
oh my god.
But there's no way we're getting another goal.
God, really?
Yeah, completely, because what does it mean to say that a man can really be a woman in fucking SAML?
So you
Oh,
don't believe
also,
that
hold
there's
on a minute. Isn't it a bit
anybody-
weird to be like, oh, I don't think most of these people hate trans people, except for Helen Joyce. She probably definitely does hate trans people. And then to be like, but, you know, what they do as opposed to hating trans people is they, don't think they exist. And then you show evidence of this in the form of Helen Joyce saying she doesn't think trans people exist. Surely, like, that doesn't really make any sense. Like, I don't know. I don't really get what you're on about there. And then we do this, and then we bring on our little centre back, Macomb. Yeah, we're not in a position to be bringing on our. This is a Hail Mary. I'm not going to listen to the rest of the video. Okay, no, we'll listen to the rest of the video. I just want to I want to lock in. That's all I want to do.
Like Buck Angel or any of these people who literally have something in their brain?
Absolutely not.
Or maybe that 1 in like 10,000 is trans, but 99% of people who say they're trans are trying to deceive not only society, but also themselves. Honestly, this is rarely any better than hating trans people. So this is the one chapter where I will not be debunking whatever Hannah Barnes wrote in her book. I'm not going to cover these children's trauma. Sure, whatever. They might have complex backgrounds, but I don't really care. Using trauma as an argument for why these children might not be trans is, I think, kind of disgusting. And my arguments against it would be the same as for autism. So what?
No, I'm locking in. Okay. Gotta do this. We gotta do this. Come on. Yeah. Okay, you got the ball. Just need to make something happen here. This is it. This is what dreams are made of. This guy has full energy. Shit. This is it. This is the do or die moment. This is it. This is the do. We've not won. We're done. Come on. Back. Send it back there. Send it back. Yes. We're back in. We're on. Okay. Thompson. Oh, he's got full. Nope. We're done. Guys, we're going to lose the league. Were they at least a good team? What was their rating? I could have scored. Look. Okay, that wasn't that good. But what were like the match stats? Okay, they had slightly more possession. We had this. Okay, like that was, I don't know, whatever. I had more pass accuracy than them. We have to see where we rank in the league. We've lost, guys. This is over. Is this an easy mode CPU or something? I don't know what you mean by easy mode. CPU. Are you like making fun of me because like it seems laggy? I don't know what you're saying. I'm gonna cry. Okay, how do I actually look at the table? How do I look at the table? Season. Here we go. Oh, wait. No, I don't want to care about. I don't care about the Capital One Cup. Why doesn't it just show me the? What are you doing? Why not? Oh, there we go. So, okay, Exeter City. Are they a good team? Where are we? All right, we're gonna have to beat some people. Can I actually see, like, how good that team was? I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. I'm gonna go to bed. All right. Bye, everyone.